Welcome to the program. Tonight I'm joined by Tim and Melany Perkins to discuss careers in entertainment. Here's what they had to say.
If you are really passionate and you do have a product, then you have to be willing to be committed, because in this type of a profession, it takes everything you've got.
Yeah.
There's so much competition. Find a niche, market, work that, and just keep going. You can't be iffy about it. You have to be confident, and you have to learn and study and rehearse and just put your whole heart into it.
Sounds like
And the more you know
persistent.
whatever it is that your niche is, or whatever that thing is, you know, maybe you got, you know, I don't know, frogs that you taught ballet to or something, and ooh, look at my, you know, dancing frogs. You need to know everything about your frogs. You need to know everything about ballet. You need to have that so wrapped up and just totally own it and live it.
We call that mastery.
Mastery, yes, good word for that.
Careers in Entertainment with Tim and Melany Perkins when we return.
Funding for your career is provided by Miller Media Group. Education for life. From Florida's Space Coast, this is your career.
Welcome to Your Career. I'm Debbie Featherston, your host, and with me today is Tim and Melany Perkins, here to talk about careers in entertainment. And when I think about both of you, I think entertainment. It's your middle name.
It is, yeah.
Thank you for coming and being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
You know, when I think about the field of entertainment and all the careers in it, it's such a broad field because you have, you know, people that are working in film or theater, you know, their music. There's just so many different aspects and so many different dimensions. People can be in a support role, you know, they could be a crew, they could be an HR, they could be the talent.
Oh, yeah.
So how does a person, based on your years of experience, how does a person really make a decision to go into entertainment?
Well, first off, you gotta love what you're doing, but you gotta remember that these are products. These are products no different than a tube of toothpaste or a box of cereal, you know? So a lot of people are thinking that, you know, there's this personality thing and this desire thing, and, you know, it helps to not be shy, of course, you know, be able to overcome that. But I think that you have to remember it's an industry. You know, we think entertainment industry, we focus on the word entertainment.
Right.
And I think it really helps a lot to focus on the word industry. And you start thinking about things as products, as, you know, you got to get this thing, you know, out the door on the conveyor belt or, you know, whatever. When you start thinking about it like that, you start thinking of yourself as a product. Am I marketable? How's my packaging? You know, do people want to buy this? What's the competition? I think that gives you a good understanding and a good approach to treating things more like a business and not taking it so much as some personal hobby kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how did you two get started? Melany, what was your story? I know you're both a little different in terms of how you got into the entertainment industry. Tell us a little bit about how you got started.
I was a bedroom performer. I did not come out of the bedroom, and I just stayed in there for many years writing songs. But then I ended up, you know, I had kids, and by this time I had...
You weren't 12 anymore.
Wasn't 12 anymore. No, I was in my 20s. Yeah.
Just, you know.
And I'm still 29 and holding. But anyway, I decided to go to the library, and I just loved the library feel. And I wanted to volunteer when they had this sign that said, "We're looking for someone who has any talent to help us with our summer reading program." So I thought, okay, I got to give back, even though I'm scared. It's kids, you know? And so I ended up volunteering for their summer reading program, and I wrote 12 songs that ended up being my first album. And the librarians all got together and, well, they said, you got to record this stuff, which I did. And they said, well, you got to come to our library. And then they started paying me. And then they took we had a tape at the time, they didn't have CDs. And they took my tape and sent it in to these national reviews, School Library Journal, book lists, which I'd never heard of. Apparently they're international review companies. And all of a sudden it started selling all over the world.
Wow.
And so that was the beginning for me. And it didn't mean I wasn't scared, but I just developed a love for children, performing for children, creating music for children. And that's the thing. I think having that niche market that's helped me to just take it And that's how I met my husband too, because
we hired her to perform for our special needs kids with Very Special Arts, VSA.
Okay.
It's a national organization, and the local chapter, VSA Brevard, is, or Space Coast VSA if you want. They were sending artists into each school, and I was part of that as a creative director type, board of advisory board thing. Sometimes I get to be the artist and I go in, and I was, of course, always saying, well, art's fine, but how are you going to pay your bills? So I would always push the commercial art. That was, for me, as pretty painting, who are you going to sell it to? So we hired her to come in and work with the kids, and just yesterday, no, it was Saturday.
Saturday
she's performing, and this little girl wants to meet her and comes up, and she's just jumping up and down. She looked like some teenager meeting the Beatles or something. It was really neat to see that, and I know she gets pulls energy from that.
Yes, definitely.
And it echoes around, and everybody gets excited, and everybody feels good. Then you want to do that again.
Right.
So
Tim, how did you actually tell us a little bit more about how you actually got started? I see how you made the connection with Melany, but tell us a little bit
from
more.
the commercial, a lot of folks don't know this, but my original vocation is advertising.
Okay.
And I worked in radio and television and print media, and I guarantee you've seen my work. It's been all over the world, big companies, the major stuff. I was an art director, and so I knew, basically how to take pictures and sounds and put them into people's heads. It's all about communications. So there was a guy in college. I had a part-time job working in a museum, and I just love science, and I'm always trying to figure things out scientifically. And I love a good mystery, and measure until you find the truth. And so that was just sort of who I was, heart and soul. But when I was going to buy a gift for a kid who had tried to build a barometer to figure out when it was a good time to go surfing or something, and I was showing, he made one out of a Coke bottle according to my instructions, and it was a little leaky. I thought, I'm going to go buy him one, and I was so proud of him, that he did a good job. And I went to a science store where they were trying to set up a television program, and this is before Bill Nye or anything. It was 20-something years ago, and they convinced me. I mean, they just basically kept saying, okay, well, we're going to give you this much money. No. Okay, more money. Okay, no. Okay, fine, I'll take all the money. And they gave me, and I was getting like bags of money, literally to have, we had 5 school buses a day come through, and the teachers would collect like $7 per kid. And all that was going into my pocket, so you can imagine a school bus of kids, each of them with $5 in their hand, and we had McDonald's catering the thing, and McDonald's would deliver the burgers and the fries and all this stuff. And I was just managing it all. But if one of our, we'd have the Time Warner would videotape, and we'd have the scientists from NASA or one of these other places come out and do stuff. And we'd have experts on reptiles and dinosaurs and rocketry and all this other stuff. And if one of them didn't show up, I'd fill in. And they pretty much got all older and moved on and stopped, retired, whatever. And pretty soon it was just me, and the kids started calling me Mr. Science because they didn't know what my real name was. And
That's how it came about.
It just
Mr.
stuck.
Science Guy, right?
Yeah, yeah. They just
That's
didn't.
cool.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I wouldn't have chose that name because it's super generic.
Yeah.
So it's like Mr. Smith or something. I mean, it's just, yeah. So it was probably a bad call there. But I wasn't really interested in that. I was just having fun and doing the thing. And we had all the schools sending their kids out, and this was when it was a lot easier to get a bus full of kids out of a school, and nowadays you got to have all the lawyers involved, and you got to get overtime pay for the bus driver and all this union this and that. So back in the day, it was just let's hop in the bus and go, and so we had people out there directing the buses coming through, and the kids were coming through, and they'd see a show and get a prize and do a thing, and we'd videotape it, and I'd have all the tape, and
How fun.
And I was paying everybody, and then one day they said, I know we hired you to get all this stuff all set up for the television and all this stuff, but we're pulling the plug on the whole deal. All the investors were pulling out. They were all arguing over European distribution rights and all this other mess. And I said, oh, okay. So they said, so tomorrow the place is locked up. And it was up to me to call all the people and say, your field trip's been canceled, and I couldn't do that. I just went ahead and called all the schools and said, yeah, we're just go into a different location. And I contacted the rec departments, and they have a business model. You know, nationwide, they have this standard format for how you run a municipal
Parks and Recreation.
Facilities, right?
Yeah.
And you know, depending on budget, they have you know, if you go to school to learn how to be a rec leader 1 or 2 or whatever, recreation specialist, then they teach you, you know, here's how you do it, here's how you run the budget, here's how you get the community involved and all. And so I knew what their business model was, and I went down there and I said, I want to take this part of your business model and this part of your business model and mash it together and create this product. And they went, oh, that would work. And I said, yes, it will. Let's do that. And they were like, okay. So basically, I would rent entire civic centers, and I had 0 overhead because, let's say nobody showed up, I would get, you know, 0% of 0. And
yeah, it worked well.
100%
People
zero.
always showed up.
Yeah, people, yeah. Well,
Oh,
it was up
let
to
me
me to
tell
make
you.
sure they
And
showed up.
today, you know.
Yeah, well, business-wise, it worked good because we'd fill the hall, and I'd videotape it so I could resell it if I wanted. So it's a one-time event, but I can, you know, sell it again and again and again. And I'd have, I don't know, you know, it was over 20 years ago, but I'd make $800 before lunch.
So that's really how you broke into it.
Yeah.
And it's continued to evolve. I'm
Yeah.
curious, what has surprised you most during this journey, you know?
We were talking about this the other day, as a matter of fact. The idea that we have, what I found is that there's 2 camps. There's education, and then there's media, such as sales of products and, you know, Happy Meals and whatever, you know. And they're competing for the real estate of our kids' minds. They're trying to get into their kids' heads and say, hey, but get this, do this. You know, well, the teachers are saying, you know, learn this, learn this. And the techniques for education and that army, that side of the battle line, are different than the techniques used by advertisers, marketers, product development specialists, and, you know, industry in general. So you've got these 2 competing camps trying to get the kids to participate in whatever they're doing. And what I found is that the entertainment is the most powerful way to communicate with them. You can have these kids, they know all the lyrics to the latest song, but do they know all the, you know, elements in the periodic table? No. You know, do they know their ABCs? Do they know this? So they can remember stuff and they can learn stuff, but their enthusiasm to remember and to recall and to understand and to learn is all off in this, you know, what's the latest song and who's the latest hip-hop artist or whatever. So what surprises me most that as a society, as a species globally, we are not taking that super powerful way of communicating with our children and using it for the most possible good, which would be to empower them for their future. You know, we're using it to sell tennis shoes. We're using it to sell sugar water.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Or just make more money.
Which is just a piece of paper.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Melany, do you have a perspective on that? What has surprised you most along the way?
Well, what surprised me is that I even ended up here because I never planned this. But what surprised me most was how much I enjoy the creative aspect of this, and that people will pay me for it. You know, I'll get these royalty checks in the mail. Well, they're not checks anymore. Now they put it directly into your bank account. But I'll say, wow, this is from work I did several years ago. So the number 1, what surprised me is that, you know, I ended up here. Number 2, that I really enjoy this, and number 3, that they pay me for it.
That's cool. That's really great. Curious, Melany, now you mentor a lot of young people. You've mentored and coached and groomed them, you know, young people that have really wanted to, you know, entertainment to be their industry, right? This is their passion, whether it's a guitarist, vocalist, whatever. What's some advice that you've given them?
Get a second job. I'm working on a blog right now called The Starving Artist. It's not romantic anymore. First of all, you have to make sure that you have a product, because it is, as Tim was saying, it is a product. Whether you're going to be in front of the camera, behind the camera, whether you're going to be an attorney or any aspect of this, you have to pay your dues. It's like the blues, you know. People are not going to pay you if you don't have a product.
Right.
But
right.
So you have to get a real outside, objective perspective of whether you have a product.
Yeah.
you know? And don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't delude yourself.
Yeah, really.
And then the other thing is, if you are really passionate and you do have a product, then you have to be willing to be committed, because in this type of a profession, it takes everything you've got.
Yeah.
There's so much competition. Find a niche, market, work that, and just keep going. You can't be iffy about it. You have to be confident, and you have to learn and study and rehearse and just put your whole heart into it.
Sounds like
And the more
persistent,
you know
persistent.
whatever it is that your niche is, or whatever that thing is, you know, maybe you got, you know, I don't know, frogs that you taught ballet to or something, and ooh, look at my, you know, dancing frogs. You need to know everything about your frogs. You need to know everything about ballet. You need to have that so wrapped up and just totally own it and live it. And when you can do that, you know, that takes a while. That, you know, that takes a lot of
Sure.
commitment. That takes
We call that mastery.
mastery. Yes, good word for that. Yes, exactly.
Another thing I thought of is, you have to realize that this is something like the development of the next crop, okay? When you go into this, you have to realize that you have to, right from the beginning, you have to realize you have to pass this on. I've seen so many people who are self-absorbed, and they are never going to go anywhere. So you have to learn how to give of yourself and realize that this is a temporary position, and your job, in addition to entertaining or whatever aspect you chose, is to pass on the knowledge to the next crop of.
That's great. So
People.
really, once you
Leadership
achieve a level
development.
of, but once you achieve a level of mastery, then you want to begin to mentor and coach people like you do.
Means nothing if you can't pass
know,
it on.
that
And
they
that's what
had
that's
in
what the
that.
librarians did for
Yeah,
Melanie. You know, so
absolutely.
it comes full circle.
That is so
Exactly.
cool. What have you found that has really helped people to really stand out in a very crowded field?
There's a reason they say be a star, and if you're going to be a star, you got to shine. You got to shine. You got to be out there. Now, yeah, I often say, you know, I'm not afraid to sing. That doesn't mean I'm any good, but you know, singing's not my thing. But I'll go ahead and sing badly and own it. And I'm gonna, you know, be the loudest bad singer you ever heard, you know. So what I lack in skill, I make up for enthusiasm. That enthusiasm is the product, not the singing. And I get that. Now for her, she's got, you know, she's got a little bit of enthusiasm, but she's got a lot of talent. And so,
Oh.
I mean, she hits the notes, you know. Yeah, I'll hit most of the notes. She hits them all. And so that, you know, she doesn't have to, as I always say, fake it till you make it, you know. So I can get out there and I can push and push and push and push. It doesn't mean I'm good at it, but man, can I push.
He's good at it.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah.
He
that's
knows how to
Yeah.
get knowledge into kids' brains.
Well,
Well, you know, I'm kind of curious. What have you actually done? What has actually contributed most to your success? Because you have an interesting package of skill sets.
sure.
Right.
It's going to be other people. It's other people. For her, the librarian said, "Hey, we're going to take you to this next level." She hadn't even imagined, you know. And so, you know, when I'm talking to my kids and I'm saying, you know, but young man I just helped with the aerospace, I said, "Okay, you got your first engineering degree. Why aren't you getting your second one now?"
Right.
Because he was actually capable of doing that. He had it in months, and he was probably going to coast and be fine with that. I said, "No, dude, you're great. This is where you shine," and so he does. So I think that when we can find someone, not necessarily a mentor that we're seeking to find, to, you know, tell me what to do kind of thing, but you know, the idea that we can go in there and just sneak the win into someone's pocket and send them forward with it, you know. That's, I think, really important for us to be able to share and perpetuate, you know, is giving other folks the win.
You know, what planning is really required for a person to be financially successful in this?
Math.
Just math.
Ka-ching!
And not just the math, the money, but the math, the time, the
Yeah.
math, everything. If you think, for example, Melanie and I was just saying, you know, other people make a difference, right? Well, Melanie fills in the gaps where I'm weak or, you know, distracted or whatever, and I'm going to fill in those gaps for her. So we're complementing each other.
Yeah, and let's get specific because, and let me tell you what I observe, knowing you both well, right? What I have seen over the years is that you both are very creative, you both have a lot of talent, right? But what I see is the business planner, I see the creative person who can do the advertising, the promotion, you know, what a wonderful package.
We're really blessed there.
It's really
she
a
can
good
do
team.
both, and I can do both.
Yeah,
But
it's,
what happens is when I let her do that end of it, which is basically, trust fall kind of thing. I'm just going to let, they say a good manager surrounds himself with talented people and stays out of their way, right? So I got to stay out of her way on a lot of stuff. And if she says, hey, here's how that's got to be, it might not be necessarily what I think, but I can't go in there and micromanage it and ruin it, because she's in charge of that one. And, the same goes back the other way. And what'll happen is, you think about, well, here's a person and here's a person, and then as a team we form this third entity, and that third entity has to be healthy. And the way to do that is anytime you have something that is interacting with something else, more than one thing, that interaction is either going to be constructive or destructive. There's no other version of what those are going to, there's no neutral. You get two things, they're going to interact. You're choosing to take steps that are destructive and wiping out your stairs, or you're choosing to take steps that make things easier for you.
Yeah, because as I think about it, bringing it back to the business side of it, because that's what I think entertainers, talent really need to understand, is that you guys are blessed that you are a couple and that you have these shared and sometimes different skill sets that are not only going to get you out there because you've got the talent, but you've got the skill sets to run a business, to be strategic in planning and understanding profit and loss, and when it makes sense to push this product or not push that product.
And that's
your
where the
market
math comes in,
analysis.
because if you can just add stuff up, everything in the world's everything in the universe is part of a pattern, which means every pattern is part of a pattern. And so all you have to do is look for what the patterns are. If you know what the patterns are, you can make predictions.
Exactly.
And so, you look at, I was reading, I think about 20 years ago about the Matsushita Corporation. They had a 200-year business plan. That outlives all of the employees at the time of the development of the plan. So most people are not planning that far in advance. They're just reacting to what's going on around them. And you have to be able to say, I'm going to plan things out. Now, what I always teach is that you have to have a minimum 3 plans. Your plan A, plan B, and plan S. Plan A is what you want to do. That's your main thing, okay? Plan B is your backup plan in case plan A isn't going so well and you made a mistake, okay? Plan S is the stupidest, worst thing that could happen. And the S plan is going to destroy you. It's going to wipe out everything. And you have to plan it in detail so that you can recognize it when it masquerades as plan A or B. So if you don't see plan S coming, it'll get you.
Well, we've got just a few minutes left, and there's a couple questions that I want to go to, and I really would love to hear something new or anything that you, a song, as a performer. But here's a question. What is really on your radar? You guys, the one thing that you have done and do well is diversification in terms of your products. So what do you got going this year?
I've been doing the science stuff for a long time, and of course I did the VSA, Very Special Arts, and did the art and stuff. I did Melany's album cover, as a matter of fact. I taught Photoshop. When Photoshop came out, Apple sent me around to teach people how to work it. And so almost everything on here is Photoshopped except her glasses, though she was actually wearing those goofy-looking glasses.
One of my kids gave me those.
That's great. How fun.
So, anyway, we've got our dog and all this stuff. So the art thing. A lot of people don't know that I'm a talented artist and commercial artist, and if tomorrow wasn't going to be Mr. Science, I could easily go get a job in advertising or.
Any camps? Doing any camps?
We're doing an art camp. And
that's where you're going? Okay, you've got an art camp. That's where I was going with that long list right now.
Only a few minutes left.
Spring break camp. Summer camps where we have music, we have art, we have science, and we're going to be doing public speaking, and development.
Excellent.
At the Mr. Science Laboratory.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
So where can they go to find some information?
They can get it at
Satellite Beach Recreation Department.
Okay.
Yeah, they're gracious enough to put up with all of our craziness all the time and give us all the help we need to promote our products and all. And
well, we've got about 2.5 minutes.
I'll get my
capo.
Play us a favorite song.
This is a song I wrote. It's called "Smile on My Face," and it's self-explanatory.
This actually has a story behind it. I know we only have 2 minutes. She came home in tears because of a bad business person she was dealing with, and she was shattered. I mean, this guy was a real jerk. and it just wiped out stuff. And I seen him coming, and I had him on my radar, and I'd already put up a brick wall, and he wasn't part of my deal anymore. But
that was the
and I warned her,
inspiration.
and she got hit. And so she came over and talked to me, and I said, you know what? We saw this coming. You're good. You're safe. Everything's fine. Now we know better. Every problem has an opportunity hiding in it. And she turned the problem into this song.
Okay. Well, I'm only going to play like one verse of it and the chorus, but but you'll get the
We got
the
a couple
gist of it.
minutes.
When I went on to work today, just to sing my song, a big bad wolf tried to blow me away. He was downright wrong. I hightailed it over to your place and you put a smile on my face. Put a smile on my face. You 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 put a smile on my face. When I'm thinking way too hard, trying to say it out loud, they tries to get me to draw that card and make a dance with stride. I let you go, you draw me an ace and you put a smile on my face. 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 You put a smile on my face.
That's fantastic.
You put a smile on my face. You put a smile on my face. You put a smile on my face.
Oh, that's great. Well, Tim and Melany Perkins, thank you for being with me and giving our viewers a lot of great information about the entertainment industry. Wish you great luck and much success this coming year.
Thanks. Thanks for having us.
Well, on behalf of my guest and everyone here on the set, you've been watching Your Career. I'm Debbie Featherston, your host, and remember, be career happy.
More information about this program is available online at millermediagroup.org. Funding for Your Career is provided by Miller Media Group. Education for life.